From ruthless assassins to savvy businesswomen, they have left their mark on history as some of the most fearsome narcos of all time. So, who are these notorious female criminals, and what makes them so interesting? Number 5. Jocelyn Alejandra Nino. Jocelyn Alejandra Nino was a notorious female narco who made a name for herself in a Mexican drug cartel. Be warned, this story is not for the faint of heart. Jocelyn was involved in some of the most dangerous and deadly crimes in history. Her criminal activities range from anything like drug trafficking to money laundering, and she was known to be a key player in one of the most violent cartels in all of Mexico. She was most notably one of the most dangerous master assassins in the Gulf Cartel. One of the most notable incidents involving Jocelyn was the time she orchestrated a massive drug shipment to the US. She and her team managed to smuggle over 300 pounds or 136 kilograms of cocaine across the border, worth millions of dollars on the streets. This was a huge blow to law enforcement, and they began stepping up their efforts in order to catch Jocelyn. But she was a mastermind at avoiding authorities. She used fake identities and would frequently change her location to avoid getting caught. Even when the authorities did manage to catch up to her, she would bribe her way out or use connections to escape from jail. Despite her cunning tactics, Jocelyn's reign of terror came to an end when she was finally killed, dismembered and stuffed in an ice chest near the Mexican border back in 2015. This was more than likely done to her by a rival gang. Her story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangerous world of drug trafficking and the devastating consequences that come along with it. What would you do as the head of a cartel? Tell us down below in the comments. If you like the video so far, be sure to subscribe. Number 4. La Catrina. La Catrina, whose real name was Maria Guadalupe Lopez Esquivel, was part of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of the most powerful and violent cartels in Mexico. She was known for her ruthlessness and doing whatever it took to get ahead. One of the worst crimes La Catrina was involved in was the ambush and murder of 14 police officers in the state of Michoacan back in 2019. The cops were on their way to carry out a search warrant when they were attacked by La Catrina and her associates. The ambush was so brutal that it made international headlines and sent shockwaves throughout the whole country. But in January 2020, La Catrina's reign of terror came to an end when she was killed in a shootout with Mexican authorities. Her death was a significant blow to the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, but it also served as a grim reminder of the dangers of the drug trade. Number 3. La Reina del Pacifico. Another notorious female narco was Sandra Avila Beltran. She was popularly known as La Reina del Pacifico, which means the Queen of the Pacific. Sandra was one of the most powerful and feared drug lords and women in Mexico. She took part in the drug trade for decades, and her criminal activity spanned a wide range of violence. She was known for her connections to some of the most dangerous and powerful cartels in Mexico, including the Sinaloa cartel. One of the most infamous incidents involving her was in 2007 when she was arrested in Mexico City. The authorities had been tracking her whereabouts for months, and they finally caught up with her at a restaurant in an upscale neighborhood named Polanco. But the Queen of the Pacific wasn't going down without a fight. She put up a fierce struggle and even managed to escape briefly before getting recaptured. Her arrest was a major blow to the drug trade in Mexico, and it sent shockwaves throughout the nation. Despite her being taken into custody, La Jefa continued to be a major player in the drug world. She even managed to negotiate a deal with the authorities from behind bars, agreeing to provide them with information about her rivals in exchange for a reduced sentence. Today, La Jefa is still serving time in prison, but her story lives on as a legend in the world of the cartel. Number 2. Edina Arellano Felix. Near the top of our list at number 2, we have one of the most famous female narcos in history, Edina Arellano Felix. She was a member of the infamous Tijuana cartel, which operated in Tijuana, Mexico during the 1980s and 1990s. Edina was known for her sharp intelligence and ability to evade capture. She was the financial brains behind the entire Tijuana cartel and was responsible for laundering millions of dollars in drug money. One of the most shocking crimes associated with Edina was the murder of Cardinal Juan Jesus Posadas Ocampo back in 1993. The death was a shocking and tragic event that shook Mexico to its core. The Cardinal was on his way to officiate a confirmation ceremony when he was caught in the crossfire of a shootout between two rival drug cartels at the Guadalajara airport. He was shot 14 times and died at the scene of the crime. While the exact circumstances of the shootout are still the subject of widespread debate, it's widely believed that Edina's Tijuana cartel was mainly responsible for the murder of the Cardinal. The Tijuana cartel had been engaged in a bitter rivalry with the Sinaloa cartel, and the shootout was seen as an attempt to eliminate members of the rival faction. The murder of a high-ranking member of the Catholic Church set shockwaves throughout both Mexico and the international community. The Mexican government launched an open investigation into the incident, but no one was ever fully held accountable for the Cardinal's murder. Despite her involvement in some of the most heinous crimes in Mexican history, Edina managed to avoid capture for years. She is currently one of the only people on this list to remain as an active member in the drug trade, having seized control of Tijuana cartel after her male family members lost their grip over the organization. Number 1. Melissa Margarita Calderon Ojeda. And finally, in our last spot, we have Melissa Margarita Calderon Ojeda, also known as La China. She was a member of the Sinaloa cartel, one of the most powerful drug trafficking organizations in all of Mexico. Yes, the same one Edina's Tijuana cartel feuded with. La China was known for her involvement in the drug trade, as well as her violent and ruthless actions. She was responsible for overseeing the cartel's operations in the state of Sonora, where she ordered the murders of rival drug traffickers and anyone else who stood in her way. One of the most shocking incidents La China was involved with was the murder of journalist Armando Rodriguez in 2008. Rodriguez was investigating La China's criminal activities, and his murder was widely believed to be retaliation for his reporting. The death made headlines around the world, and many were quick to point fingers. Rodriguez had been investigating the criminal activities of La China and had even published a few articles exposing the cartel's activities, including drug trafficking and money laundering. On November 13, 2008, Rodriguez left his home in the city of Ciudad Juarez when he was ambushed by several gunmen on motorcycles. He was shot multiple times and passed away at the scene. If only he hadn't reported on La China and the Sinaloa cartel, he could still be alive. Despite her involvement in countless murders and other crimes, La China managed to avoid capture for nearly a decade. It wasn't until 2011 that she was finally arrested by Mexican authorities and charged with both trafficking and organized crime. La China is currently serving out a prison sentence in Mexico, but her legacy lives on. It's important to remember that the actions of individuals like La China have caused immeasurable harm and suffering to countless individuals, families, and communities. We should be working towards a safer and more just world where we can put an end to the violence and corruption that plagues the drug trade. And let's never forget the victims of these senseless crimes, whose lives were tragically cut short by the greed and brutality of those few involved in the drug industry. So there you have it, folks, the most dangerous female narcos in history. These women were ruthless, ambitious, some might say greedy, and not afraid to take on anyone who got in their way. While their crimes are certainly shocking and disturbing, they also offer a glimpse into the dark underbelly of the drug trade and the toll it takes on individuals and societies. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to leave a comment letting us know which of these female narcos surprised you the most. If you've heard of any others, tell us about them down in the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more fascinating content on the world of crime and justice. See you next time.